this episode of The Cost of Power, we'll be treading through the vast deserts of the East and exploring the two main cultures that live there, Egypt and the Earth Monks. I was fiddling with my mute button for a moment there, and then I realized that might become a problem later. Actually, it was already a problem, but it might be a problem when I'm trying to look to see if I made a mistake here. Egypt. If you're wondering where Egypt came from, I'd be wondering that too. It didn't exist before this, but I wanted to talk about more than the Earth Monks because, well, they're the monks. They're kind of overpowered, as all monks are in this game. But yeah, in this episode we'll be talking about Egypt and the Earth Monks. Egypt was kind of my solution to try and elongate this script because the Earth Monks start here and Egypt starts here. So yeah. Egypt was modeled after the pyramids of Egypt. So while the terrain and cities are modeled after Egypt, it's basically the demi-human capital. Basically, the only god is the capital G with quotations around it and a couple asterisks, but it's supposed to be the only god, is the pseudo-Christian one. He is not biblically accurate. So instead of having all of the Egyptian gods, since the Holy Army would be at their throats for that, worshipping any god other than the one true God is blasphemy, which is kind of the opposite of how it would have gone in real life, or at least in the Bible says. Some of the higher races are the Naga, half-serpent demi-humans. This is the first reason we can't go fully into Egyptian mythology, because there are no Nagas in Egyptian mythology. Any of you historians out there might have noticed, but there is let's see, a snake god called Nihibukau. I can't pronounce that, but he looks like a snake with poorly photoshopped legs. One moment. I have pictures. This is the second time I tried putting all of this together. So yes, these are some of the pictures I'm talking about. It's just a long snake, and then they just photoshopped some legs onto it. And oh gosh, darn it! I was planning to use this in order to go back to the things I had already done last time. Oh well. So if this stream cuts off suddenly, that's just problems that I've been having. So note that isn't intentional. But let's see. Their appearance, from what I can tell, is that of a human whose spine has been replaced by a snake. Oh yeah. Let's see. And I'm referring to these statues which were found depicting him. There's also this, but I don't know how accurate it is. This is from Wikipedia, so I trust it much more. Then there's also this, which can't really get a good view of, I don't think, but oh well. That's what I have to go off of. So in this world, their spine has been replaced with a snake, leaving them with the head and tail of a snake. They are healers, using their knowledge of poison to make medicines. Maybe not the best medicine. I'm no doctor. This is highly flawed logic. But medicine nonetheless. though their other lines of potential work include mages, as some have a resistance to magic and can breathe fire. That's actually from a brief line in the Wikipedia article. It said once that in one story he had the ability to breathe fire, and I don't know how literally I should have taken that. So yeah, they can just be born with the ability to breathe fire rarely. However, some researchers note the fact that they are still demi-human, as they are known to eat rats and mice as not specifically a delicacy, but more as a staple food for them specifically, as most others refrain from eating them. So yeah, that was just kind of a part to put in there. These aren't supposed to be gods turned mortal and then becoming a race. No, these are demi-humans that just happen to be half animal and half human, similar to the gods of Egypt. Sphinx. This one isn't technically a citizen, it's more of a guardian to ruins. We all know the Sphinx is a wise guardian of the MacGuffin, whatever you want to get. And to get it, you must solve a riddle. They might be a MacGuffin. They themselves, it wanted me to remove themselves for some reason, might be a MacGuffin with how little thought people used to throw them into their stories. They even have what could be described as a template with the Sphinx's riddle. How do we fix this? Is this even a problem? With how long-lived the Sphinx is, there is room for argument. I'll put a period there. All we may have to do is shuffle around the riddles, and it may be solved. The problem. What has 3 legs during the day and sheds 2 at night? The answer is a trick question. It's basically calling his bluff, which I absolutely love the idea of a Sphinx giving you a question that's like, oh yes, what fruit does Yggdrasil grow? And then it's like, I have no idea. And so you just call his bluff. And it's like, you're correct. It was a bluff. What has wings but can't fly? The answer is a pigeon. Or a penguin, not a pigeon. Though there could be potentially more problems or answers to that are valid but not the correct one. It would be very weird for the Sphinx to say penguin even though we're in a desert. Maybe ostrich or something like that would be a better fit for it. What is the one whose name must not be spoken, for we must not disturb his 100 years of slumber? No answer, for it can't and shouldn't be answered. Basically, this one states that it would be saying his name basically goes against the question, but there is a correct answer to it. Therefore, silence is the answer. You just don't answer and remain silent. The catfolk, they're based on the goddess Basset? Okay. Copy. There. Oh. Yeah, I have these. Yeah, this one. One moment. This goddess. Yeah, it's delayed slightly. Basset. Then I'm just gonna give it here for a second. I'm not going to go into all the goddesses. These are just the first 3 that I felt I needed to. The catfolk, they're based on the goddess Basset. They're normally seen as protecting. They normally are seen protecting granaries. Yeah, I can see why it wants me to fix that. Since they are carnivorous, they won't eat the grain and are one of the other demi-human races that eat mice. They even cultivate them sometimes as food, but it's not seen as practical. Yeah. Now I realize there are about 2,000 Egyptian gods. From a brief search, I looked it up to see how long my suffering would be extended for, and decided I'm not going to bother with that because there are still, like, I don't know, 500 of them are demi-humans. So I decided to just turn them. I just decided to take the god's name and take whatever they were supposed to be. For instance, Horus, the falcon god, Shemek, the lion who looks like a frog. This is why I brought her up. She does look like a frog. Like, what lion have you seen with green skin? I mean, even if they put in the correct skin color, it would blend in with this. So they probably just put it there to differentiate it. There. Frog. Anubis, the dog slash jackal. I'm going to be turning him into a jackal. Thoth the Thoth the ibis. And I'm not going to be able to pronounce these people. The beetle. And Sobek the crocodile. This is going to be challenging. Let's start by turning the gods into demi-humans and work from there. Horus, the desert harpy. Yeah, I'm not going to pronounce them. The lion folk, Anubis, turns into the jackal folk. He turns into a variant of the desert harpy, turns into a scarab man, and Sobek turns into the desert lizardman. Now, if you look, there are 3 main groups. There are the ones that are called folk, there are the harpies, and then there are the ones that have men. Basically, if you are a mammal, you'll be folk. You will be whatever animal you are, and then folk. If you have bird, it's automatically a harpy. And if you have something that doesn't fall into those other categories, you will have the animal and then men. So that's how I choose to organize them. The desert harpy, experienced scouts and hunters known for their keen eyes and intelligence. They are respected among the races, and their variants are known as scholars. Lion folk. The lion folk, are also hunters like the rest. The reason there are so many hunters is not only for food, though. Though that is a big part of it. Because of many dangerous beasts, the lion... Though that is a big part of it. Because of... Because of many dangerous beasts. Alright. The lion folk are the main damage dealers of these kinds of hunts. Whereas the desert harpies are more like the people lying in wait to get a critical hit and deal a bunch of damage. The lion folk are the people who go in and don't care about that kind of thing. One moment. Excuse me. The scarabmen. The scarabmen are not that important in the hierarchy of Egypt. They are normally farmers, but they sometimes take up work as apprentices, or more specifically, assistants to the desert harpies. The desert lizardmen are the main tank of the Egyptian hunter squads. They also guard and fish in the few rivers of the desert goodness. And that's all the races I can mentally get through. So on to the earth monks. So the earth monks are monks. They're overpowered. I'm not going to balance them yet because this isn't an actual game yet. So I'm just going to have fun with their brokenness. The Earth Monks are an attribute shift from the Air Monks, whereas the Air Monks are the most carefree and outgoing of the monks. The Earth Monks are the most secluded. Well, that's inconvenient. Even the very language, even their very language is nearly impossible to replicate or understand, as their main form of communication is dancing and sending vibrations through the ground. Basically, they're talking like Toph, but instead of being blind, they're mute. Although their form of whispering is called hand speak, or as most people will understand, sign language. Note, this is an actual language barrier that must be overcome by the player to start improving relations. One might underestimate them, as their main weapon is a sling, but their armor-piercing, high damage, and equally high attack rate isn't to be trifled with. Oh, and plus all that's ranged. As it is on the level of a modern artillery. When it comes to holding a position, they are second to none, with their projectiles having a small amount of course correct. All their projectiles are rock, and they're basically rock benders from Avatar. Earthbenders. They also have 3 main types of ammo, including Sand Gale? I've done something, so let me see where we left off. Oh. Oh. Huh. Okay, so basically, I Okay, apparently I ended up at Sand Gale, which I then turned into Glaive. Apparently, Microsoft Word thinks it isn't a word, but apparently I did spell it correctly because Grammarly isn't flagging it, which is confusing. But let's continue. Sand Glaive, a slashing attack they can use on when on sand. When standing on sand. Now, I haven't embellished this at all or made it sound outrageous here, but this can sever limbs and decapitate you. It's shorter range than the rest, but remember, each projectile has some aimbot. The sand may not have that aimbot, but instead it turns into a sharp blade while in midair by collecting all the sand together. Then there's Stone Sniper, a long-ranged flint knife slung at the speed of a GAU 8 Avenger machine gun fired from a warthog. That made sense to like maybe 3 people in the audience. And I'm my only audience. The darn thing might as well be explosive. And Marbles, the shotgun of the sling ammo. each one with a slight amount of aimbot, meaning as long as your squad is in the range of it, you're exactly one moment in time long enough to start a prayer to God before you are wiped from existence. And if you think they lack movement options, check make if you see me pause abruptly, it's probably because I'm turning over to make sure I'm still streaming. They can they can whip the sand with their sling and take off like they are riding a shark in the water. This can only be used on sandy terrain, but this is the desert. It's only sandy terrain. The Great Temple of Earth is a giant mountain in the middle of nowhere that the first elder monk of Earth created after a long trek through the desert. He tried to pull water from deep in the ground and created a new mountain made completely of bedrock. That today is the Great Temple of Earth. Any questions? Who am I kidding? I'm the only person here. And that's basically what happened. Yeah. Alright. I'm pretty sure that's everything I needed to say. I had written down at least. Let's see. It's very hard to do commentary like this when I'm alone. I will say that much. Let's end the broadcast, I guess. Stop streaming and broadcast. Okay. This has been I'm sitting alone talking. Well, not alone. I'm sitting down talking to myself at my computer. This isn't really something I could consider fun. Anyway, I'd I wish you all a nice day whenever you're watching this, if you're watching this.